We got a quorum. All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll just hang out and wait till. Well, I guess if you guys don't mind, we'll get started, and when Ben comes, we'll jump back over to that. If that sounds good. All right. So let's call this meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board to order today, Tuesday, June 5th, a little after 3 p.m. And we've got to my right, Danny Tenenbaum is here, myself, Ryan Uris. To my left, Bob Wachtel, Gene Schmitz, and Peter Dracos. We heard from Jeff Schmerker and Robin Welling that they would be absent today. And maybe Corey, too. I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But anyways, and Britt and Corey are not here right now. All right, previous minutes. Any additions, changes, subtractions, etc.? Any comments? Kim, thanks for adding the motion in there. Awesome. Looks good. Well, then we'll approve that as it is. And the current agenda, everybody okay with that? Any additions? Again, if we get down to 6.2 and Ben's not here, maybe we'll skip to new business and go back. If everybody's all right with that. All right, no public and no staff. So let's get rocking and rolling with number 7, new business, admin rule 415. Bob, you seem to be the most well-versed in this. So do you want to take it away?
I can give it a shot. The document that has been provided is pretty current with the latest changes that I also found as I went through it again this past week. Came up with a few more spots, but most everything is there and correct as corrected. One I see that was not modified was up in the TOPS header section where it indicates revised. It was originally adopted in 2008. It was then revised in 2010. And we're looking at another revision in 2018. So I don't know if that should be in there for record keeping and history, or if that can just be left at the current revision of 2018, which is what it should be and not 17. Do we need to go through change by change, or does anybody have additional changes besides what they see marked in red?
I've got at least one, and this again is a little bit, I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive here under applicability. It says the city of, after you get through with the level of traffic stress that goes in the greenways, we have applicability. City of Missoula Complete Streets Policy instructs that all city staff to consider the users, et cetera. I think I would, in terms of making it a little bit more proactive, suggest that city staff act on behalf of the users of all modes of transportation. In other words, I think sometimes using the word consider means, yeah, we considered it, but then we're going to stick with the status quo. So I'd like to look for a little bit stronger wording for that section. The word consider always makes me think it gives somebody an out when it comes to providing better status for cyclists and pedestrians.
So what word do you propose?
I would take out the words to consider and replace it with act on behalf of
On behalf of.
the users of all modes,
Oh.
the users of all modes of transportation, of all ages and abilities, etc.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just upgrade the word or the concept of considering to being a little bit more proactive. Hey, Britt.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Gene. And thanks, Ben. It looks like we've got a fresh, hot off the press, updated admin rule 415 with some additions from the previous one. And we've got Ben Weiss and Britt Arneson here too. Add them to the roll.
So yeah, sorry I'm a little late. I'm blaming Gene,
I took
though.
the hit. I took the
Okay.
blame.
He already told us. He said it's his fault.
Yeah, all right, good. Our 30-minute meeting turned into 90. And yeah, I needed to grab something to eat before this. So we're in Admin Rule 415. Might as well keep up this conversation before going back to my general staff report. So the fresh off the press version that I gave you incorporates a lot of the changes that Gene and I discussed earlier today. One of the things that we spent some time but axed a whole bunch of language is in the sharrows section. We were able to, we think that it makes most sense from a maintenance perspective and fits within the METCD to make more the blanket statement that the sharrow should be placed in the center of the outside travel lane. And that field judgment can be used to, as long as we're meeting the METCD, field judgment can be used to adjust as necessary, from place to place. And so some instances where that might be the case could be we currently have a sharrow curbside southbound on Van Buren between Broadway and Front, and the chevrons are angled to steer people up onto the trail right by the press box entry there to continue southbound. That's a location where putting that sharrow out in the middle of the travel lane doesn't quite make sense. The idea is that it's catching people from that little bike lane that ends and then getting them onto the trail. Another location that I'm not sure what we have is the exact best, but I don't know that putting the sharrow in the center of the travel lane is best either, and that's right in front of Hellgate High School, northbound on Higgins. There's currently a curbside sharrow. It's about a 17-plus foot travel lane. If you were to put the sharrow in the center of the tire tracks, it would potentially invite passing by motor vehicles on the inside. And if you put it in the center of the 17 feet, it would go right in the right-hand wheel well, so it would be run over. So again, while providing the guidance that they go in a place that minimizes scrubbing and encourages best riding position, it allows for some flexibility in the field. Bob?
That specific location in front of Hellgate, is there potential then, as we leave that in the outside area, but then a little ways further on, just beyond the traffic light, an angled sharrow to bring cyclists out to the center of the travel lane?
There is potential there, and that's something that we talked about. And again, I don't think anything we're saying in this precludes that.
The other thing just came to me, so with the I know we talked about this, but so the 17 feet, you would want to leave 11 feet for travel lane for the place where most people make that right turn onto 6th. Would there be any rationale to having a a bike lane there or buffering a bike lane or something to kind of corral the cars to the section where they're supposed to be before making the right turn, so they don't just kind of have that, where they might have that tendency to pass you on the right if you go to the center of a 17-foot lane?
Maybe. My fear there is that you get there when the light is red and then you get a green and there's a line of cars and you're being run into the back of parked cars in the next block because there isn't
Right.
room for you. It's easy to make that move when you're kind of at speed northbound and the light is green and you just get into traffic, and that's fairly easy. It's when the signals are not favorable that would become challenging.
Or maybe something like that area right next to the curb, because there's no parking there, right? As you approach that turn onto 6th.
On the first block, yeah, there's no parking.
No, I mean south, just south of 6th. There's
Yep.
no parking at Higgins at all. So what if we put next to the curb some painted hash marking to indicate that cars can't pass you on the right if you're in the travel lane?
Yeah, that's kind of a painted bulb out or something. That's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
something like that with yellow paint or something, kind of
Yeah,
make it a no-no that way.
we can discuss that at traffic services for sure.
Okay.
I have not had a chance to update our flow chart as we talked about on the kind of final page of this, even though it did print out. But basically, the idea would be that, or from last month, our discussion was that it'd be both some kind of yes and no questions like the original flow chart, and that it provide very kind of transparent documentation for the decisions that we make, for both people who want to see more bike facilities and people who don't, that we'd be able to answer to both of those camps pretty easily. Some other changes that we made included adding local streets to where this rule applies to, and talking about, I added some width discussion into the bike lane section, and talks about what that we are going to, we acknowledge legal minimums, but then acknowledge also that we want to go above those where possible. And I guess with my thought on process with this, I haven't had a chance to finish up making the edits that I wanted to. I haven't had a chance to bring it to traffic services and to engineering and get their buy-in. But my thought is that I will do that over the upcoming month or two and bring the next version that I bring back to the board will have more staff comments than just me. And so this board will then be asked basically to approve a version or to recommend adoption of a version that has been vetted through staff already. And I guess that will likely be the August meeting. If there's discussion around things, around elements of this admin rule, around purpose or anything like that, I totally would entertain that. If there are specific comments about, maybe adjust language here, adjust language there, I think those can be done in individual emails, recommendations to me. Again, email me directly, don't email the whole board, and it won't be open for discussion. It'll just be a comment that I'll take and consider.
And Ben, when do you want those comments by?
Oh, let's say end of this month.
Okay.
Can somebody please clarify for me the difference between the blue and the red edits in here?
The red where Bob Lochtel's, the blue is mine.
Okay. Are you adopting his edits, like the draft that we would comment on? Does that include Bob's edits?
Yeah, anything that's left in there so has been, we all kind of agreed, hey, this is a pretty good change. There's again, a chance that a word or two could alter from that, but you will see, we're not asking you to approve this today. We're like in August, we'll bring a version that that's the kind of the fine tooth comb time.
When we've got, I'd recommend, folks take a look at it again at some point before the end of the month, and then we've got the next COW meeting on June 26th, and so that'd be kind of our last chance as a board to discuss anything or have Ben answer any questions, and then it'll be kind of up to staff's hands at that point.
I just have a quick question. What on the flowchart, section 2 says for unique spot situations. What exactly are those? What does that mean?
That was from the original one. So again, remember that we adopted this before. This admin rule was adopted before sharrows were included in the manual for uniform traffic control devices, so there was no national guidance on how to use sharrows. And so we were taking that to mean rather than long segments of uniform roadway, a transition moment, say when the bike lane ends southbound on Stevens as it approaches Mount, using a sharrow in the lane right at the signal, or approaching that signal to indicate that sharrow should be there. That would be like a unique spot situation.
Okay.
As opposed to 6th Street, which just has sharrows for nearly a mile between Russell and Higgins.
There's another one I mentioned to Ben earlier, because they just on South Avenue eastbound from Arthur to Higgins, they just restriped the bike lane, which has always been there, but then it disappears a block before you hit South Higgins, because it splits from one lane into two for the left turn lane and then a straight through / right turn lane. And so that would be an appropriate spot to have the bike lane transition into sharrows either in the rightmost lane or possibly both lanes. So that would be one other spot where it's just that one block.
I guess I'm just wondering, how would someone in the field know whether to go to section 1 or section 2? Like, who decides what a unique situation is? Whether it's a spot or if it's big enough to be I don't know.
Well, again, this is the holdover flow chart from the last one, so this is going to change pretty dramatically between now and when the next one comes up. Second is that the process is not just like one of Chad's crew members out in the field. This would be discussed by several staff, engineering, my position, planning, potentially traffic services, public works, and figuring out what we're doing and why.
Ben, since we're kind of down into this flow chart here right now, just to back up under Roman 1, part B-1, and it says, is there enough room for safe bike lanes? Implying there's unsafe bike lanes, heavens. I'm just wondering if that's, I mean, when I, maybe it's just me when I see that, I'm going like, oh, well, how do we distinguish these from the unsafe bike lanes? I'm not sure if there's other language to use there or if it needs some kind of clarification or referencing or whatever.
Yeah, I think it probably does need some clarification. That looks like a Bob edit to me. It's red. And so, yeah, my take on that is that we mean that it's not a minimum bike lane next to a minimum driving lane next to a minimum parking lane. Basically, this is a way to say that we wouldn't restripe 5th Street the same way if we were redoing it.
This is the same document that you and I looked at quite a while ago, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking about the need for hyper-local analysis. I saw that wasn't in there, like it doesn't say anywhere this is a block-by-block analysis. Is that because that's too much work to require that? Or?
No, it does say that.
Oh,
in
okay,
there.
I just didn't find it.
Yeah, it's on applicability. It's the last sentence of applicability. Consideration of bicycle facilities should be given on a block-by-block basis.
Thank you, there it is. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I also really like the list of criteria that you ended up with in the parking removal section. I think it covers a ton of bases.
Yeah, and so that's one where once the new flow chart will include questions about each one of those so that we can kind of be able to point to that very easily, both when I come to a neighborhood that might not be psyched about why we're recommending bike lanes, or when I come to you guys and say, who might not be psyched about why we're saying, sorry, we can't get them this year.
I also really liked that you included as a consideration the potential ridership of improved facilities versus just what's being taken away, but to include who would benefit from this as well.
Awesome. Any other questions for Ben about admin rule 415? Bob's got one.
I think this is just a response to Britt. That was the section under marking new bike lanes and the third bullet, last sentence. It addresses that removal of parking and potential users requires a public process in which parties affected by removal of parking and potential users of improved facilities. So it needs to be not just local to the neighborhood, but it needs to be more of an open public process that includes those who use that facility for travel.
We all have to cross each other's neighborhoods, and as we all know, when you're out there on your bike, it is a block-by-block reality. It's different every block.
Awesome. Great questions and comments, you guys. Again, look it over. If you guys have anything else, email Ben, and then and we'll bring questions to the COW meeting on June 26th. So, cool. Thanks, Ben. Well, let's scooch back then to 6.2, and if you want to do the update and go from there.
Yeah, all right, thanks. So it's been a very busy month. May was National Bike Month, and so there were lots of activities and events. Thank you to those of you who helped the non-motorized counts. Those were going on. I guess we actually moved our meeting to accommodate those. And so that was successful. It was the odd year, or is the fourth year, so that means that we did the surveys as well. And so we haven't had a chance to analyze any of that information yet, but I'm pretty sure every single one of our volunteers showed up, and we got presumably good information collected. It was also Missoula in Motion's Commuter Challenge, the 2-week-long business-to-business competition to get people biking, walking, busing, carpooling more, and that was a huge success. They had nearly 100 business participants, and of those, about a third were new this year, and that is, it's a great accomplishment on Missoula in Motion's part. The truth is that kind of happens just by natural selection anyway. Some people just fade, we attract new people, or people move businesses, and so the captain from a business has always participated, so they get their new business involved. You're bound to get a bunch of new businesses. The really impressive statistic is how many new people actually logged trips. They had over 1,300 people, I believe, log at least one trip during those 2 weeks. And before, even when we've had over 100 businesses participating, I don't think we've ever even had, or we've had barely 1,000 people log a trip. So that was huge. The number of people that got to participate in the contest was great. We also did breakfast on the bridges all month, helped out with that. We also hired and trained the bicycling ambassadors who are hopefully going to be swinging by sometime in this couple hours to be able to introduce themselves. But we have a great pair, Cheryl Spotted Wolf and Erica Johnson. Different personalities, different backgrounds, different life experiences, and they are complementary in a way that is going to make them a really terrific duo out this summer. They're self-motivated. They've already been planning a bunch of activities out on the street, riding the trails, getting familiar with different routes, talking to people about the issues that they face, and are already doing a great job despite being just at the beginning of week 3 this week. So yeah, excited to have them on board. And then, as some of you may know, there's been a lot of turnover around our office. Jessica Morris's last day was last Friday. She's moving to Asheville to be the Assistant Transportation Director for the city there. And Asheville, North Carolina. Yep, to be closer to family. And so there was her position needed to be filled, and Aaron Wilson has moved up into that position. And so now that's going to ease the transition, and he is, a skilled planner and also knows how we work here. And so that's a great move for us. And so they're hiring someone there. Also, Logan at Missoula in Motion left us. Logan Smith moved to Butte. And so we have been interviewing, and we've hired for her position as well, although the woman that we've hired has not started yet. Will start, I believe, in July. She's finishing up an AmeriCorps term. And so we're working with her current employer to negotiate that. And so as a result, Kim and Catherine and myself have been stepping up to handle a lot in this month. It's also kind of prime construction season, and so things are underway. And we got to talk last month about all the things that were happening, and I had some optimistic deadlines for some of the projects, which I regret to say are being pushed back a little bit, specifically the trail crossing at South and Johnson. The rainy weather delayed them quite a bit, and so they had hoped for a third week in June, kind of finishing touches on that, and now they're looking at the second week of July as when that will be done. And so we're trying to coordinate a kind of grand opening and ribbon cutting around that, and I will definitely be letting the board know. Hopefully the third week of July is my goal, because I'm gone the second week of July. And I'd really like to be a part of that. So we're looking at, putting together a group ride, some speechifying, and celebrating, because really this is a huge connection to have the Bitterroot Trail as one solid chunk from downtown, really from McCormick Park, essentially, to Hamilton, or to south of Hamilton even. I had a chance to kind of related. I had a chance to ride it this weekend down to Corvallis, and there are some sections that need some work. Bob, as a Bitterroot Trail Preservation Alliance person, I will send you an email. But it is a fantastic resource, and I recommend anyone either living or visiting Missoula to get on it and ride, because it's pretty incredible. And other projects, Van Buren roundabouts are underway, and that trail is underway. I've received some complaints about the surface for bicyclists and kind of direction or lack of good direction for pedestrians. MDT is aware, or they're working on it, but any comments or criticisms or suggestions for improvements, please send them to me, and I can't do much about them except send them on to other people who can, but I want to know about them, and I want to be able to make those connections. So please do, not just there, but with Russell Street. They've moved solidly into the tunneling part of Russell Street. As anyone who lives on that side of town may have heard, they're banging all of the supports in. That's basically, the soil there is so sandy and rocky and loose that when they start digging it, they're worried about it collapsing in. And so what they're doing is they're banging in basically metal retaining walls to keep the soil back so that the size of the hole that they have to dig doesn't grow super big. But that banging should be done sometime this week, and then they'll get to boring the tunnel through. And again, that project seems to be on schedule despite the high waters and the rainy spring. And they anticipate having that tunnel open sometime by the end of the summer or fall. And then back to Van Buren, that project, they have a mandatory deadline of being done with that by the first Grizz game. And so that will be open to the public. All aspects of that project will be open to the public by the first Grizz game, which I believe the first home game is the last weekend of August this year, but I could be wrong on that. Okay.
I was wondering, the detour on the trail crossing Russell Street doesn't seem that bad. However, the pile driving is quite loud. Is there a standard for how much abuse they can do? Like when you're trying to walk or bike even on the detour, it's pretty excessive sometimes. Or what could be done about it?
I don't know what can be done. There are noise ordinances, but I don't know if they relate to construction or not. And I don't know if they would apply to the state whose project it is, because it's a city ordinance. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
I believe they have applied and received an exemption. So they're not doing that during, and the noise ordinance only applies actually at night from like 10:30 or 11 until 6 in the morning or something.
I just have a quick question rewinding to the commuter challenge.
Yeah.
Missoula has one and then Montana has one, and they overlap a little bit, or no? It was confusing because my wife was enrolled in the Missoula one and my office is just doing the Montana one. And so I wanted to compete against her and I couldn't. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, the state challenge, the statewide challenge, I think might be the whole month of May. Or it was the last 2 weeks. I'm not exactly sure how they overlap. And one of the reasons is that we are the only city in the state that has an agency like Missoula in Motion to help lead something like that. And Bike Walk Montana, the statewide advocacy organization, really loved the challenge and thinks it's a great motivator. And so they are trying to implement it statewide. But it is, it does lead to some confusion like that. Out of curiosity, how did your office learn about and enroll in the state challenge?
I work for a state agency that's based in Helena, and so they're more keyed into what the state is doing.
Okay.
And I just work in a satellite office here in Missoula that doesn't really, that sort of follows Helena's lead, so that's why.
How'd you guys do?
I don't think we all walked to work, so we should have done well, but I think some people bike from further away. I don't know how it works.
Oh yeah, so that's another.
My wife's company, I think they won their category for the city, so I just want that to go on the record.
And the state one does factor in distance and things like that, and the local one is just about trying. You get more points if you get people who've never done it before to try it than you do if you have that one person that's biking 20 miles each way. So other updates are that, I guess I don't really have any. There's, the work has been, whoa, there they are. All right, the ambassadors are here. I'll let Cheryl and Erica come up and introduce themselves then, because that's been the bulk of May has been working with these guys and getting them going, and yeah, helping Missoula in Motion with some of their stuff, and then fielding issues surrounding construction projects. So yeah, if you guys want to come up, talk with the mic. Come up together.
Hello,
Welcome.
I'm Cheryl,
Erica.
and we're the bike ambassadors for this year throughout the summer. Explain? Okay. Oh, okay. So we are like trying to help the community with sustainable ways of transportation other than vehicles. And ours is mainly bicycling. And so we have taken paths and gone to all the bike paths and stuff so that we can explain safe ways, observe what kind of traffic is on there. And then we can implement that with bike camps that are being done in conjunction with Parks and Rec. And then we are also trying to set up a bike, maybe possibly, a presentation for bike safety for the Poverillo, for the Missoula Indian Center, for the pre-release, because the pre-release has the highest rate of accidents with bicycles. So we're just trying to promote, a self-awareness on what it is to ride safely and legally and courteous and share the road with pedestrians and vehicles. And so I'll let Erica continue from there.
Do any of you have questions for us about, or suggestions for what you'd like to see us focus on this summer?
Have you guys ever considered going out at night in the dark and trying to catch people with some lights?
We have a plan to go to the outdoor cinema and do an evening with them where we're working with the Missoula in Motion. And we'll be handing out lights there as well as helping with putting on the whole thing. So that's one of our plans. Nothing yet in the works for late night yet. So that might be something we might be able to add eventually into our schedule.
Might be a little easier to do later in the summer when the days are a little shorter than they are right now.
You guys can move your thing and slide it around. You don't have to. It can move. Have you gotten any typical responses from people on using certain streets that they're not comfortable with? They're asking you, is there a better place for me to ride? Or making complaints about where people park? Or, are there any things that you can sort of, at this point, I know you haven't been doing it that many weeks, but can you come up with some categorizations of what you think might, at this point, be some
Ideas?
Yeah, issues, ideas that people that are out there pointing out to you or asking of you?
We just had, yesterday we stood on the corner of Broadway and the Rex Trail where it comes out into and goes into across to the press box. So we talked to them about what was a few people that came through and that would stop with us and had time to talk. They mentioned that right turn coming off of, what is it, Van Buren, where the exit is, where the construction's going on. They don't stop, even though it has a turnout light. We noticed the sign. There's a sign across the street that says yield to bicycle, and it has a bicycle on it. But it also has that sign right at the approach when you're coming to do the stop. And the gentleman said they don't ever stop. He said, here, even though it has the lead out light that starts before the traffic goes, some people don't even look. They're just still trying to just squeeze in. And so that's something that we don't have any solutions to as of yet, but we're just like looking and trying to see what might be easier or what we can. We do want to encourage them to use that from the Rux Trail to stay into the crossing and then onto that wider 10 feet sidewalk. So we're definitely encouraging that. There's also an option where you can go to the left. I really like that sidewalk part where you just stay on there and then you don't confuse them by jumping out into the bike lane at the press box, so.
Just a quick question. I'm interested in your thoughts on this. At that intersection, you have to push the button to make the light change,
Yes.
to give you a walk signal. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, we've had a couple, as we've been biking through that intersection a lot, there's times when like we approach it at the wrong time and then we have to wait like a full cycle to get the cross. So yeah, I also kind of wish it had a longer lead. Right now, the pedestrians get 3 seconds, and I think 5 might be nice. Because you don't get very far in 3 seconds, even on a bike. Especially when you're like just starting. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the button?
I totally agree with you 100%.
I think if you had the button on constantly, they would automatically be trained eventually to know that no matter what, the pedestrian and the bicyclist has a right of way in the crosswalk. Like the downtown just goes to walk anyway without them pushing it. So that's an idea.
If I'm remembering or picturing what you're saying right, is that the people coming down Van Buren headed towards the press box and and then they're turning right onto Broadway, that they essentially, whether the light is green or whether it's red and they are allowed to make a right turn on red, that they're essentially they're totally ignoring anybody that might be using the crosswalk on the green light, whether they're, especially the people that are coming up from behind them perhaps on bicycles and looking for a way around that. I'm kind of wondering, and Ben, you have more contact, I guess, with Greg and such. There was last summer I noticed a couple times where they were doing the construction by the Merc, and there was a motorcycle officer there, and he was ticketing people for speeding coming off the bridge, and I'm wondering if that might be kind of a spot enforcement thing to throw up there, just to kind of, or maybe even put a motorcycle with an inflatable policeman there and just park it and get people's attention and make them, everybody would drive differently if they had their brother-in-law, the cop, sitting in the back seat, probably.
It's definitely possible to, I'll reach out to Greg and ask about added enforcement there.
I went to the Flaming Lips at the Kettle House Amphitheater last night, and there were about 50 people that rode their bikes there. And so I thought that would be a great venue for guys to pass out lights. I was very impressed by how many people had lights, but I think that still offers a venue.
What was the bike parking situation like there?
They had about 15 standing racks, that people could attach their bikes to. And then I noticed overflow bikes were just attached to the chain link fence that surrounds the amphitheater. So there's some need for more bike racks, but it was pretty good for new facility. I thought it was above and beyond what you get 20 years ago.
I'll give them kudos. I feel like the bike racks are relatively close to the entrance too. They're not in some far off weird spot. I didn't go last night, but biked out there a little bit last year, and it was definitely dependent on the concert whether more people were biking or not. But
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I've received a couple complaints about the bike parking situation out there, that the racks are not good for locking your bike to, and that more people were choosing to use the fence and and anything other than the racks. And they're outside the city limits, so they're not beholden to our zoning rules that would have triggered review of their bike parking. So yeah, and I haven't been out yet, surprisingly.
And I don't remember, are they, Peter, do you remember what type of bike racks they are? I don't think they're the U ones. I think they're like the ones where you put your wheel in.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, not even the Wave.
Like
I
a
can't
comb.
remember. Was that comb?
Like a comb.
I think that's right, but don't quote me. It was last year.
Have you guys encountered any kind of, whoa, what do I do now moments, like when you're trying to get around and you encounter an obstacle and you just kind of were surprised by it?
An obstacle such as?
Like the bike lane disappearing, a giant hole in the sidewalk, or, you know, a place where you got trapped between cars and traffic, or just expected to be able to continue and couldn't?
We had an incident yesterday coming on, what is it, Madison? And entering into the bike lane on Spruce to come back to the office. And it was just because of sight. But the guys coming off the railroad tracks cut way into that. And it's not fair because there's no safe way. I mean, to me, I was like, I was, you know, I'm usually not afraid to ride my bike in Missoula, but that was the one moment I was like, oh my God, that is a problem. I mean, I just, and they had construction going down that Pine, you know, the boulevard, and so we couldn't take an alternative route, and due to the rush hour, it was after 3, I believe, 3:45, so that I was concerned right there. And then we also had an incident at Ryman where the guy just crossed over and Erica was turning and he saw us. We were clearly taking the lane, clearly signaling, both of us, and he just zoomed right out and right out front of the mayor's office or the city hall. Do you have any comments?
One of my pet peeves is when you're crossing the bike ped bridge near the press box going towards campus, and then you've got the protected bike lanes for, like, are they protected or are they just, there's those bike lanes, and then right in front of the rec center, Adams Center, it's really ambiguous what you're supposed to do next. And then I bike on 3rd a lot. I live in the Franklin to the Fort neighborhood, and there's a couple of spots on 3rd that are kind of awkward, like going westbound right before Russell, where the bike lane disappears for a block, and there's a bottleneck, and then going eastbound right after the Bitterroot Trail, kind of by ORI's building, the bike lane ends, and the spot where it ends, like, spits you out right behind parked cars. Are there any that any of you are passionate about?
Oh, I encounter them all the time, but those are definitely a couple of my favorite problem areas. The other one, if you had been coming down off of the Rattlesnake or from Greeno, the Spruce and Madison intersection, it can also be a real doozy because a lot of people, they don't want to cross, I guess that's Greeno Street at that point, to get to the bike lane. If they're coming that direction, they'll stay on the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street. But then what do you do when you get to Madison? And it can be a big mess there, I feel like.
Have you had any times when you've seen people riding on the sidewalks and thought they might be getting themselves in trouble? Have you approached them and had them, like, argue that, no, I'm really only safe on the sidewalk kind of thing?
Not yet.
It seems like a lot of people make an effort to use the bike lanes, and we haven't encountered that yet as far as, like, heavy speeders down the sidewalk. And we're out there too, so we haven't witnessed it either, you know, when we pick a spot to stay or pick a spot to hang out at.
Seems to me that the biggest population of people that generally ride on the sidewalks is near the reintroduction center, or the not prison, but the
Pre-release?
pre-release. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They seem to what?
Ride on the sidewalks, and that's just a generalization.
Rode my bike down there, and I actually got up on the sidewalk as well. For safety, it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit through there, or 45 at one time. So to me, I felt more safe by jumping up on the sidewalk. On Mullen. Yeah. I thought it was 45 after.
It's 35. It was 45. The pedestrian fatality a few years ago prompted a speed limit reduction down to 35, but vehicle speeds still are in the 40 to 45 range.
Have you noticed helmet wearing? Is there what would be your take on that? If you could approximate like whether or not you feel like people are wearing helmets?
I would say there are a lot more people than I really realized, because I never wore a helmet till I got this job. And so now that I'm wearing it, I noticed a lot of people, little kids, witnessed a little kid riding to school this morning wearing a helmet. And I was like, well, that was pretty nice, you know. So what's your take, Eric?
I don't know. Yeah, I have a complicated relationship with helmets, and like, I wear one, but I guess I don't really notice too much if other people are or not.
Maybe half and half, maybe. And I'm just noticing because I'm now wearing one. So.
I think role modeling it definitely helps. You know, it is inconvenient. I mean, nobody likes it, but after you've done it long enough, it's second nature. It feels weird to not have it on. So,
you never have a good hair day. Thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, I've kind of waffled back and forth on helmets throughout my life. I've been wearing one consistently for probably like 6 years, and it feels weird not to wear one at this point. But there are studies that suggest that when you're wearing them, drivers drive more closely to you. And like their safety, obviously they help, but they may not help as much depending on the crash conditions. Like, yeah, I don't know. Ben has lots of information about that. Ben?
Yeah, I don't know about what percentages are, and you know, the hospital does provide inexpensive ones, and the ambassadors will help out at sales over the course of the summer and help fit and encourage people, you know, when asked to wear them. But we are not helmets are not there's other safety measures that would have a lot greater improvement on general safety than pushing helmet use on everyone.
I think that we strongly encourage it, you know. I mean, it's ultimately the bicyclist's choice, or the parents of the bicyclist. We're also working with the St. Pat's trauma services to get the word out, so that if people feel they want to put a helmet on their kid or wear it themselves, they have an option for people that are low income. And so we're making it, you know, at least where it's offered, and that we encourage it. We don't like want to be, hey, we noticed you don't got your helmet on, or anything like that. We're just like, yeah, we strongly encourage it, but that's about all we do, you know.
So Erica mentioned there's studies that show that helmeted cyclists are passed closer by drivers. It's also shown that helmeted cyclists run more yellow lights, ride faster, and are riskier than unhelmeted cyclists. And so,
Which is the cause and which is the effect?
well, yeah, exactly. And so there's also studies that show that women are passed with a wider berth and that blonde women are passed with the widest berth. And so the safest thing you could do would be to have someone put a helmet on you without you knowing that you have a helmet on, and it's disguised with a long blonde wig that covers it. That would make you the safest out there.
So which one of them are volunteering?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, any other questions for the ambassadors?
I just wanted to follow up on the helmet issue. I've been a helmet wearer for many years. Didn't used to wear one when I was a kid. They weren't in style then at all. So, but now that I've, yeah, not really. But since I've started having the mirror mounted on my helmet, that is a sure encouragement to put the helmet on, because without that rear view mirror on my helmet, I'm lost as far as trying to turn around and look over the shoulder or the end of the arm. It's so much safer to be able to use that rear view mirror on the helmet. And it's a point that might be pointed out to people that are somewhat reluctant to try a helmet, that they wouldn't drive a car without a rear view mirror. Why ride a bicycle without a rear view mirror when you're so much more vulnerable?
Ryan, did you have a question earlier?
Oh, it was when we were talking about problem spots, and I was going to say one of mine is on Stevens, going around those or where Orange turns into Stevens, and then it kind of rights itself again and heads north-south. Those are tricky parts where it pinches. That's where I've had the closest calls of anywhere in Missoula, so I don't really know what to do there other than encourage people to take the lane. And
I actually have an update on that, and I hadn't talked about it because I thought we had talked about it last time, but I guess not. So we are moving forward with a project to make a little bike safety, I think we're calling it a bump out. But essentially, we are, and I don't know exactly when this will happen, but we've already begun conversations with the aging services, and they're totally on board. And so we're looking at putting a curb cut in right about here, so that if you're southbound on a bike, you could then mount right there. And then this whole section in here is getting widened out to shared use path standards. I think it'll be 11-foot wide concrete surface. The fence that's currently limiting your sight visibility around that bend is going to be removed and moved back to close to the parking lot line. And similarly, a lot of that vegetation will go away. And so then you'll be able to bike through here, seeing other people that are walking and potentially using that path, and then the bike lane will diverge, come through this grass area, and then there'll be another curb cut, and so it'll spit you out right where the bike lane picks up around the bend. So that will help in the southbound direction, which is where I feel the most pinch. In the northbound direction, you have bike lane up to right here. Now you can either, we did add sharrows into the lane, there's the remnants of one right there, but actually what I find to be even quicker than for this 5-block section is to keep going straight here. There's a curb cut right here, and then a pathway that goes diagonally through this park, and then that spits you out right here, and then you can ride up Chestnut all the way to First Street. And you have some traffic calming features on that. It's very low volume. You do have a stop sign at 3rd, but 3rd Street on this side of Orange is much lower volume than the other side of Orange. And then you go up and you can come out at 1st where the bike lane picks up again in the northbound direction. And so that is a pretty easy way to avoid that 5-block section that can even save time from staying on Orange Street. In the other direction, not only do you have to make full right angle turns to do that similar avoidance move, but crossing 3rd and 5th and 6th are much higher volumes on that side than on the east side.
Do you have a timeline for that improvement?
I don't, other than that, we're actually seeing engineering drawings and are talking to the property owners about making it happen. I think the expectation is that it gets funded in the next fiscal year, and so it could even happen this fall, this like late summer or fall.
Cool, thanks, Pam. Has there been any discussion on the coming northbound from like where the Subaru dealership is around that apartment complex?
Oh, down
Yeah, at Mountain.
all the way
Stevens.
down at Mountain Stevens? No, there has not been. And yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Cool, thanks. That's awesome.
In this section, Cheryl just asked, what's the dilemma here? And so here that's a shared combo right, so you can go through or right. So if you're in the middle of this lane, you have kind of a really wide intersection to get through. And then here it's very poorly defined because the lines get rubbed away. And so you don't really have a bike lane until all the way right here. And so you have this curve to get around where drivers are kind of impatient because Stevens is a 35-mile-an-hour roadway and there isn't a great spot for you to be. So there you just got to kind of take the lane and let them honk at you a little bit.
I do.
It seems though like potentially a similar thing could be done where this gets widened out in here and then gets dropped down into the bike lane on the other side. You might end up losing one parking spot there. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Ryan. I'll look into that closer.
Yeah, awesome, thanks.
One of the reasons that now is the time that we're moving on this one, well, first it's been in the CIP for 5 years now, I think, and so engineering is really expecting this to get funded this year since it hadn't been in a while. The other is that the MDT's ADA project is coming down through, and while they're only upgrading the intersections where there's streets to meet ADA and not doing this, we thought, gee, now is the time while there's other construction happening at these corners, we can kind of minimize impacts and just make this corridor better for folks. We're not sure currently that, I think it's only proposed to go to Beckwith and not all the way down, but we'll look into that.
I have a follow-up question on that subject. I went to a presentation that MDOT put on about their curb cut policy or program, and they said they're doing 5th and 6th and Orange Street and Higgins. And I asked, well, there's a horrible spot that's not curb cut at the Elks Club coming out of the Front Street side. And that curb is about 18 inches off the ground, and I was just wondering what is proposed for that. They explained to me that the Elks Club has a submerged shooting range in the basement, and so that corner would require a bulb out, and the HDR told that consulting firm said they have designed something, but it would need the city's backing for it to go anywhere.
Huh, that's more than I've heard. I've heard that the city has been asking MDT to include it in their ADA project, and that they're saying, no, that's out of the scope of their work, and so they're just kind of doing this at each other.
And that's what they conveyed to me, was it's not our jurisdiction.
Yeah, even though Patty Street Patty and Front are both on their urban system. There's no immediate plans to do anything about it, but it's definitely known, and we wanted the city really tried to get MDT to include it in the project, and they didn't want to do it.
Okay.
I really, as a money thing, they thought that they could, for the price of doing that one corner, they could get probably 2 other entire intersections, so 8 corners done for the price of that one. And they wanted quantity with this.
I'm sure engineering-wise, it would just take a tremendous amount of money, given what's under that curb.
Yeah. There's also other things that so another ADA-related issue is in the Higgins Bridge rehabilitation that is going to happen in a few years. When these stairs come down, that go down to Karis Park, they're going to have to be removed to do the work. Well, ADA requires that we can't put them up unless we have an ADA route. We can't even replace the stairs unless there's an ADA route. And so we don't have the money to build a ramp from here into Karis Park, and I think that some people might not even want one if we could. Obviously not the ADA, not people with disabilities, but people concerned about aesthetics of the park and things like that. But so what we're looking at is what is the alternate route? What is the alternate ADA route? And we can't run people in front of the Wilma and El Caz and then down Front Street this way and then down Ryman, because the cross slope of the sidewalk on Front Street doesn't meet ADA. And so to do that, we would have to replace that entire sidewalk in front of all of those businesses there. And so that's just not going to happen. So what they're looking at now is crossing Higgins, coming down in front of First Interstate Bank and coming down this way and then cutting through the kind of Clark Fork Market, either through the parking garage in there or right behind the substation, and having a route go that way and into the park. There is, although I think it's private to the Millennium Building, but the sidewalk in front of First Interstate Bank, because it's brand new, and the Millennium Building, that all meets ADA. Yeah. And so you'd be able to come through that way. Yeah, I mean, it's going a block or more out of your way, but at least it would be an accessible route. So that would be the alternative to stairs, or is that still stairs? No, that would be the alternative to stairs. We'd have to establish that and make sure that entire route met all of the provisions of ADA to even put the stairs back. Yep. Yeah, so there are challenges for sure, and one of the things I've been working with Chris Siller from the Montana Independent Living Project. And he's a fascinating guy to talk to, and he's helping me learn that solutions that might work for people with one type of disability are actually a hindrance to people with another type of disability, and that, for instance, he has a vision impairment, and so he loves the truncated domes at intersections to let you know that you're there and where you should cross. But he said that there are people with wheelchairs, that those domes present a real problem to them, and that they collect snow and slush and ice, that they are not. I find them more slippery than normal concrete. Yeah. So. Yeah, there isn't any one universal design necessarily, but it's been pretty fascinating to learn about what the trade-offs are and how can we improve things. Related to that, it's not going to show it here, but at this intersection, right at Stockman's Bank, the ramp is now right on the corner as a single ramp that it rubbed me the wrong way when I saw that at first. I thought, gee, that's sending people with vision impairments out diagonally into this really busy intersection. And I happened to run into the state's ADA coordinator, who's based in Helena. He was just swinging through on a work day. He had an appointment in Polson, and he was on his way back to Helena. He stopped in for lunch, and I ran into him on the street. So I had him walk me through this and what his thinking was. And basically, he pointed out all of the challenges and all of the competing provisions within ADA that he couldn't meet. And so he ended up making a design that he felt was the most inclusive for the most amount of people. And it's tough to fault, you know, basically everyone had something that they didn't like about it, but it's tough to fault someone for that, you know? It's a difficult position to be in.
Can you go back to the Higgins redo in terms of the stairwell and ADA?
Sure.
This is just kind of off the top of my entirely too old head, but I wonder, back up a little bit, let's zoom out and do the, that's pretty good right there. So what would happen if, am I on? Yeah. What would happen if where the stairwell is now, kind of underneath where the bike ped 13-footer is going to be, would there be a way for the pedestrians and wheelchairs and whatever ramp to have a ramp? I'm thinking of sort of looking at the crossing the railroad tracks to the north side where you go up the spiral, the square spiral.
Oh.
But instead of having that, have a ramp come down from north to south till it gets about halfway down the vertical distance of the bridge to the park, and then have it make a 90-degree turn.
Up this way?
And then, no, actually it would be coming down this way, and then when it gets about here, whatever, where it's about still halfway above street level, make a 90-degree cross, and then head back north to get down to street level to where the Clarkport Market is. So you have a shallow.
Oh, so on the east side of the bridge.
It would be underneath the bridge. You'd make a U-turn underneath the bridge and slope back down to the other way, and they'd still be right down by the whole Caris Park, Clarkport Market area.
That's actually a pretty interesting idea. I know that the main reason the ramp wasn't considered was cost, that was going to be.
Yeah, but maybe just have that instead of the stairway at all, and just, hey, everybody take the ramp. Forget the stairway.
All right, I'll bring it up. There's a stakeholder meeting tomorrow, so I'll see what can be done.
I mean, I'm sure it would cost more than just the stairway, but I'm just thinking of the distance saving and not making people feel like they got to go almost a half mile for a alternative.
Awesome. Well, thanks and welcome you too. And yeah, really happy to have you guys on this summer. So.
How long you guys can extend?
I'm sorry.
Like month-wise?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
How long's your term?
Oh, till the October 1. 600 hours, basically.
Do you have any kind of schedule we can check with at Ben's office if we want to do a ride along or come and chat or whatever? You have your schedule up somewhere online or just through Ben's office?
Do you have access to sir? Do you have it on your slate? So you'd have to.
It would take a little coordination, but yeah, we could, if there was a day that they were out and about and you are interested in going for a ride or seeing what they do, yeah, we could definitely
So we could just call you up and say, hey, I'd like to go out one Friday morning or whatever and say, oh, well, they're going to be over here. Go ahead and join them there.
Exactly,
Kind of thing.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he has, we have it saved so that he can access it anytime. So, and then we write down exactly what we're planning on doing, and we try to coordinate with each other a few days in advance to what we'd like to do around our meetings and our training and whatever else we're supposed to do for the day.
Just somewhat related, do you have any kind of I guess we can give a plug, a smartphone or something where you can, take pictures and record trouble spots that you see or dictate little field notes to yourself while you're out there to bring back with you so you remember what the heck happened?
Yeah, we both have phones that do the picture taking, and we've also taken pictures just to show examples when we get back to the office, so.
And I keep a spreadsheet called Ambassador Observations where I'm just taking notes based on the things that they tell me. I don't even know if I've told them that, but yeah, they give me locations and then I'm, making requests of Chad to refresh paint or a note to bring something to traffic services or just an interesting observation that I want to keep an eye on, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a two-way street to.
Yes, I mean, that's really great, because me with my little flip phone, for me, I'd have to take out a notepad, and there's no way I'd remember even half of what I would be seeing over a 3-hour period to bring back for consideration.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks again, you guys. All right, let's jump back to new business 7.2.
I actually wanted to continue my update a little bit.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
There are a couple other pieces of the personnel switching that I didn't get to, and so one of the things that we looked at, I should confess, I applied for Jessica's position and was interviewed and did not get it. But kind of in doing so, we realized that this position has changed since I've taken it, that I've morphed it kind of further away from partly due to my skill set and training, and partly due to the fact the reorganization that happened between the city and county where Missoula in Motion came over. I do less of the education and encouragement than Phil used to do, and Missoula in Motion we work much closer with Missoula in Motion to make sure that the gaps aren't, that we're not leaving holes in that. And so one of the things that we're looking at is kind of acknowledging the planning and infrastructure and design elements that I've brought to the position by potentially reclassifying my job and renaming it to be something like active transportation planner or city transportation planner, active transportation specialist, or we're not quite decided on what that looks like, and Aaron is working at Aaron and I are both kind of working on a stab at the job description and then comparing notes and seeing what works. But there's a few benefits, both I think to the city, to the position, to the future people in the position, and to me. The benefit to the city is that it acknowledges that we actually have a need for and have on staff a transportation planner, and that the MPO, their job is larger than the city, and they're not really, it's kind of out of their work plan to focus on smaller city issues where I can kind of dive into the weeds on them. Another benefit is that if we actually establish some of these skills and duties into the job description, then when I eventually leave, we will not lose that and have someone have to start over, but we can hire for someone with a background in facility design and engineering principles, even if they're not an engineer. And then to me, it can put me on a kind of ladder track as opposed to being in a kind of dead end with my position. And so there's no kind of formal request yet to do that, but it's an issue that I would welcome the board to weigh in on, because currently the only downside that I see is that it would mean that we would no longer have a bicycle pedestrian program manager when we were one of the first cities in the country to have one. And so I think that we can evolve and that our needs have changed, but that is definitely a worthwhile discussion.
Is the MPO position federally funded?
It is. It's 100% federally funded.
Ben, are there any other advisory boards like ours that have to do with other types of active transportation? Like I'm thinking of the bus or anything else, or?
In other communities, not necessarily. Here, well, I won't say that we're unique, but we're unusual in that our bus system is its own taxing jurisdiction. They have taxable authority to generate revenue that way. And so as such, they have their own governing board. I think that it's possible that in other communities, especially where transit agencies might be run by the MPO or by a kind of some sort of mutual, like a government agreement, an interlocal government agreement, I could see there being a board that looks at that. There's also communities smaller than ours that have bike and ped boards separated by mode. And so there's a whole bunch of different ways to look at it and to provide guidance to the city. I'm confident that we would not lose a focus on bike ped stuff. It would just be a change in what my position does and what the position is called.
I was just asking.
Yes, for each mode has its own board, similar to this, but each mode has a different board.
Including driving?
No, not personal or cars, but
Is there a freight board?
Yeah, there's a freight advisory board. There was a bus board and a bike ped board. And so if you had a freight project, you'd have to go in front of the freight board and get buy-off from them before you go forward with the project.
Could make the argument that every project involves freight.
Yeah, but they had established freight routes, and if you wanna doing an improvement on a freight route, you need buy-off from the freight board.
Awesome. And thanks for the update, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think we can move on to 7.2.
Okay. And sorry that I skipped ahead earlier. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So.
So I did send a reminder to PD asking for someone to attend to talk about bike theft at this meeting and had not heard. Interestingly, after between our May meeting and this meeting, there was a newspaper article about the police putting out bait bikes in the downtown and catching a few people that were arrested. I think that there's a difference between an opportunistic late night downtown thief and someone who is breaking into garages in neighborhoods. But I think that I've seen, or I heard from our evidence guy that he is just getting tons of bikes and they do bust people with some regularity. Evidence is currently sitting on over 800 bikes that they've found that are unclaimed by people. And so, and while I have not looked at the numbers in the last year or two to know exactly how we're doing now, I can say that I've seen theft numbers from the early 80s and know what they were from like 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and know that the amount of thefts reported in the recent years are about half of the amount of thefts reported in the early 80s. And that was when Missoula was half the population. So twice as many bikes are being stolen from half the people 35, 40 years ago than are being stolen today. At least that's based on reports. Now it's possible that people aren't reporting them today, but in my mind, that's a big turnaround.
Is there any, does your office get any notification when those are done at auction? The bikes that aren't reclaimed?
Evidence bikes that have been found from an actual thief do not go to auction for years and years and years.
Oh, okay.
Because They're
Right,
part of the
it's
trial.
evidence.
They're part of the court case.
Right.
And they spend a lot of effort returning them to them. The bikes that go to auction are the ones that get found, abandoned. Basically, they get reported abandoned, and then they get found. Those get held for 60 days, and then they go to auction.
You never does your office get notified about when the auctions are?
Yeah, the next one is June 19th or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my office used to be responsible for throwing the auctions. Makes it sound like a party. But now that's entirely done within the police department.
Well, I know that the last one I went to was down at Gardner's, so I'm
They're all at
assuming the
Gardner's.
Police send them out to Gardner's.
Yeah.
And Ben, oh, sorry, Danny. Okay. All the bikes that are there for evidence, are those available for viewing, or do they have a list of them, or how does that work?
I'll have to double check. My understanding is that they can only check against a stolen bike report on that. I don't think you can just go and say, oh yeah, my bike got stolen a while ago. Can I look in your evidence locker? Go shopping that way.
My son's had 2 bikes stolen, and they've never let us examine anything to find out if we could recognize any parts or pieces. And so, I mean, of course I believe that there's a decent chance that one of those 800 bikes might be one of his, but they won't let us look. And we've,
You filed the police report, the stolen report?
Yeah, and we never get any follow-up, and we've asked about it, and they say, oh, someone will get back to you, but I don't, as a user of that, as a victim of bike theft, I'm not finding that system very helpful.
Were they
I mean, a picture or something, or I know that they don't want people to pretend like they've had a bike stolen and then just go, oh, that one's mine, but, if you've actually had your bike stolen, they don't really let you have a decent shot at getting a look at that stuff.
Were those bikes registered?
Yes.
So.
But that doesn't mean that the tag is still on it when it's stolen, or, And I know that they deal with a lot, but.
Well, I just wondered if in those 800 or whatever they get, if they have any.
If they come across a registration sticker, they just call the person immediately.
Oh, okay, right. Duh.
Yeah, they don't even enter it into their system. They just ask us for, hey, we have sticker number 12345, who is that registered to? And we just tell them, and they call that person and return their bike to them.
And then I want to make sure too, this was a topic Danny had emailed about and wanted to get on the agenda. Was there anything else you were looking for specifically with?
Just to be clear, I still am working on getting police here at a meeting to talk about this. I'm just giving you a brief update of what I know about it.
Oh yeah, no, totally understand, Ben, and I appreciate all your efforts getting in touch with the PD. I was just curious from Danny.
Yeah, I was just wanting someone from the police department to come in so we could talk with them about what they're doing, if anything. I mean, I think everyone here pretty much heard for the first time in the Missoulian that they were doing bait bikes just recently, and that's, it'd be interesting to talk with them, maybe advise them, talk about ways that we can prevent bike theft in the future.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I had used the transfer center, the bike storage, or it's covered in there where you could go park your bike. And I was commuting from Potomac, so I just get dropped off there and then goes the bus system or bike wherever I wanted to go. But they don't even have a camera in there. And one day I left it over the weekend, and I chained it up. And when I came back, my bike seat was stolen. There was another bike that had nothing but the frame. And then there was another bike just in the process, and so police maybe have come through there and scared them off because they had a bike tire from another bike leaning up against the wall. And I don't know if it was one or two, but they don't have any cameras in there, so that's like right by the cop shop. And so it's like, how could nobody even plan for our safety of our bikes, on that. So I never did use it again. I mean, I'll use it to go run in the restroom or something like that, but I won't leave it at all anymore. So I just wanted to put put that input in there. Another thing I wanted to say is that I don't think people report, because I was like, when I called the cops just said, well, we don't got a camera in there, so there's nothing we can do. You can come fill out a report, but if your bike's not registered, you probably have, that's all we can do, is all he said. So and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that don't report the bike, so the numbers may be a little bit higher than what you're getting as far as statistics go.
Thanks for sharing that, Cheryl. That was really, I think we all have sort of experiences like that, and I definitely have sensed that there's, people don't perceive that the police are going to help them if their bike is stolen, or that they can help them. And so that's one reason why I think it would be good to have someone from the department come in. Yeah, you're totally right. And, I think if you called up the police and said my car was stolen, they'd take it a lot more seriously, just because it's a higher value. It's probably a felony. But from the perspective of the person who's using it as their mode of transportation, it could be just as vital, to lose your bike. That could be the way you get to and from work. It could be to and from family. That's sort of the reason I wanted to have the police come in, is sort of express that, these aren't just toys we're playing around with. These are our modes of transportation.
Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. All right. Should move on to 7.3, Greeno entrance.
Yeah, and I don't have a printout on this. I also, did we talk about this at the May meeting? I'm kind of forgetting a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of introduced it. And
so one of the things that, so what this is MDT as part of the roundabout project. Let me just click. There we go. They're building trail along this side of Gregory Park, along this side of Vine Street, all the way up to the bridge here over the creek. And so this is going to be widened out to 10-foot shared use path all the way up to there. And so the thinking is, well, the path just then deposits you at a bridge where if you're headed westbound, you're facing oncoming traffic. Where are you going if you're using this? Likely you're going into Greeno Park. And so the thought is doing a mid-block crosswalk here, and then widening the bridge, the sidewalk on the bridge here to the shared use path dimensions, and then having park entrance, either utilizing the same one and widening this out, or having this be the entrance. And so that would also hopefully make the movement easier for the northbound bicyclist who currently has to do this kind of kitty corner angle when might be cars blocking that. They could make a full right turn and then a left turn into that entrance. One of the things that I've heard from a regular rider and Rattlesnake resident is that once we painted that crosswalk right here, that drivers are obstructing it a lot less, that they're either stopping before it and then scooting out in front of it, or they're just very aware that people are using that entrance to Greeno Park. And so I know this is just one person, but when this is a project without a budget, he basically said that he wants to see what happens when the trail gets built before saying, yes, you definitely need to put a, double-digit or triple-digit $1,000 project together to accommodate this.
Is he talking about the whole widening thing and the crosswalk at the bridge, or just where the crosswalk is by the drive? I'm not sure which.
So we installed last year, as you can see, there's no painted markings here. Last year, we put down just 2 stripes right there. And he said that the day that we did that, drivers on Vine Street were better behaved about the crosswalk.
Okay.
And they're better behaved about looking for people coming this way and coming up out of this exit. And so by my plan of moving the exit was not only to accommodate the new trail that it will be coming over and dropping you off right here, but also helping correct those movements a little bit, even while making the it's a little less direct for the bicyclist. It would be a little bit more predictable.
I mean, I still think that something would have to be done, because if people are going opposite of traffic coming up on that shared use trail and then getting narrowed down, there's still possibly kids riding the sidewalk coming the opposite direction. What do they do when they get to the end of that wide path and they're going the wrong direction on a sidewalk that narrows? I mean, there would have to be something to continue that movement.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're planning a curb cut there. I haven't seen details of what that looks like. But it could just be that it's a curb lay down, and then you just keep, you ride across the street and then you continue with traffic. Vine Street is very low volume, so it's, I don't think that would necessarily require a separate and dedicated facility, but just that, again, my thought was kind of two birds, one stone sort of thing, where we're connecting the trail, the Rux Trail, to the Greeno Park Trail in a very kind of understandable or predictable way.
Well, in terms of where the bikes are going to enter the park, or exit it, I guess also, I'm thinking it might as well be at that place where that crosswalk has been put in that the guy was happy about. So rather than the path that's just past the bridge, is that an entrance right there, just past the bridge?
Well, so this is a makeshift dirt entrance. What I was suggesting was formalizing this entrance and eliminating this one.
Oh, well, see, since that's by a crosswalk, and presumably people are going to be paying more attention according to your witness, and be more careful, I would think that you might as well keep that paved one, the entrance, and just kind of discourage the gravel one.
Well, if it happened, this would be paved and would meet ADA and hook into the pavement over there.
Is there any concern about like favoring a path that's that close to Rattlesnake Creek? Just, I mean, I know that the informal path north of the bridge just crumbled into the creek a couple, like last week. The bridge, the benches in the river, in the creek. It's a river at this point.
Yeah. That would definitely be a concern and would need some parks. They would need a lot of weigh-in from them. The other thought is, or the other thing that I've heard from people is that it doesn't buy you that much. You buy maybe 1 or 2 extra car lengths, because the stop sign is up here. It actually is behind the crosswalk. So if a car is stopped and they pull out to actually be able to see, you can only fit 2 other stopped cars before they'd block the entrance here too. And so the thought is that would be kind of a potentially expensive project for not a huge benefit for getting in and out of the park from this direction.
Is there a possibility of using that same kind of idea to just extend the length of that shared use area to make it all the way up to the existing crossing and entrance? So that when the state project dumps you on that shared use path and you hit the bridge, that you're still on a shared use path all the way to that corner?
Maybe, but it would still have to end close to here, I think, because of turning radius. I'm not sure exactly, but this is considered emergency services need to be able to get in and out of here if the other way, for instance, is under construction like it is now, or if it's blocked for some reason. So I don't know that we could actually get a good facility all the way up there. And even then, that doesn't help with this movement or with this movement, which are the 2 current problem movements, are the people on Greeno Drive accessing the park, not the people on Vine Street accessing the park. But it's one that I'm going to continue working with Parks and Rec on and go from there. And I'll definitely share at a committee of the whole meeting kind of some of the drawings I've done if I haven't already, for just like what a design concept could look like. But not sure where this one's at. We're still kind of a ways away.
if you can stay in that same general area.
Sure.
A little further south, there was comment earlier about the issue of getting off of Greeno onto Spruce or off of Madison onto Spruce. Now zoom out, stay out a bit, a little more. There we go. Just a little further. What I want to get to is your cursor now is just west of Lee Street, which a lot of people don't know about. But you can, if you're coming from the Rucks, you're coming in right there, and if you want to go up the Rattlesnake, you can take Lee Street and get right into the, without having to hit Madison. And likewise, I've done this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks with our university retirees riding group. We've gone up the Rattlesnake just to see how it's risen and causing damage up there. Coming back down, we've taken the sidewalk on the east side and again come into Lee Street and gone back to the Rucks to cross Broadway. It's not ideal. I really don't like to ride sidewalks, but it's a little safer than trying to cross over Greeno and then cross back over anywhere to get back to that area. So it works.
I think in the ideal world, that shared use path that they're building would continue all the way to that Spruce Street intersection on that side of the street. Just come on up, cross the bridge, keep going across Vine, cross the corner, all the way down to Spruce, because people do ride that sidewalk both directions.
Yeah.
And I think that would increase if you provided a shared use path on that one side from the other direction. I like the idea of the mid-block crossing in the absence of continuing the shared use path, because if people are going that wrong direction on that path, they need a place to go once it narrows at the bridge. And a lot of them would use that crossing to get on the correct side of the street, I think. And then they could easily enter Greeno Park from the existing entrance, since they'd be on the correct side of the street at that point.
I totally agree with Britt. I would also add that, like, if you're, another big destination in this area is the North Hills Trailhead, and if you're a pedestrian who thinks that in order to cross a street you have to have a painted crosswalk or a formal crosswalk, I don't think there's any legal way you can get there unless you are coming from the north side of Spruce. And even then, you know, crossing over that little North 2nd Street, there's no painted crosswalk. But if you're, you know, say coming from the university or really anywhere in the lower Rattlesnake, eventually you're walking on the other side of the sidewalk and you're looking up Greeno and looking down Greeno and trying to see if you can beat any cars that are coming, so you can run across the street, maybe with a dog, maybe with kids. I think there is a crosswalk somewhere at North 2nd and Greeno. I think there's a curb cut, but yeah, there it is. But and sometimes I take it just for fun and see if I can stop traffic by stepping into the street.
No.
And I think I have like a 20% success rate. Because I don't think anyone even knows that it exists. It's pretty well hidden. And yeah.
Directly under that freeway area is one of the most terrifying places to try to bike with children, because depending on which direction you're going, but it's just so cramped under there. You could fall off the cliff on the right side. You've got bicyclists coming the opposite direction on the sidewalk at you with no visibility. Those pieces of concrete jut into the sidewalk, which is narrow to begin with. I mean, the ideal world, that is a shared use path.
This makeshift one that's already there, you're saying, that's behind the pillars?
Yeah. But it's kind of hard to get in and out of that, and you know, I mean, when you're on the sidewalk going the wrong direction and you encounter both a pedestrian and a cyclist, and they're going the opposite direction, somebody is off in the dirt and trying not to crash into concrete pillars, and it is pretty messy down there. I think that might be my least favorite place, actually.
If you actually look at Strava, the heat lab map, that little area, it's like, if you select just pedestrian, I think, at least I think I saw it before, and it just sort of, the lines go all over the street because people are just trying to figure out how to get to the trailhead with their GPS going and everything. Oh, I guess they, I think it's hard to see because the Greeno path is right there too, but.
It's just such a bottleneck because of the railroad tracks and the freeway. There's only 2 places to cross there, and that's so many different pinch points, all different directions. And obviously not a part of this project, but in the long-term plan, if the state's taking that shared use path all the way up to there, it would be great if it just got the rest of the way into town.
All right. Thanks for chatting through that.
Yeah.
And the last one, we were talking about that letter of support for ward projects. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but has that list been compiled or is that still in process?
Yeah, that list was compiled. I thought we talked about it last, because I had submitted it before last meeting. So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I gave a kind of quick and dirty overview of those. Maybe I didn't send it out, but yeah, there was a project in each ward. So Ward 1 was redoing this Van Buren Broadway intersection, and really these 2 intersections to be a little bit more predictable for everyone. Ward 2 was buffered bike lanes on West Broadway from Russell to the airport, essentially. Ward 3 was 4th Street and adding a pedestrian and bicycle crossing at Orange Street at 4th, for 4th Street to start the neighborhood greenway there. Ward 4 was the neighborhood greenway at Brooks and Kent Ave, the designated crossing there that we applied for a transportation alternatives grant last year for. Ward 5 was trail along Post Siding Road to connect the Bitterroot Trail to Fort Missoula Regional Park. And then Ward 6 was moving the signalized crossing that's currently mid-block at CS Porter, moving that about a half block to the south to be at Central Avenue and making it a more, probably a hawk signal, something that's not a full signal treatment, so that you're not delaying vehicles for as long. And providing greater responsiveness to the pedestrians so that it's not as long a wait for them either.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for jogging our memories on that, Ben. And so I think from us, you're just looking for us to write a letter of support and approve that and submit it? So.
Yeah, that was the hope.
Well,
in advance of budget. Yeah. Which is happening kind of all this month.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I submitted a CIP for each of those projects, and then also for, and I forget the dollar figure, is either 50 or 65,000 a year for. This is a new request, not a CIP. There's slight differences in the budget language, but for durable pavement marking. So I didn't specify whether it would be epoxy paint or heat tape or some new material, but basically a way to do crosswalks and bike symbols in a really durable surface, so that it minimizes over the lifespan of the product. It would you'd eliminate the need for having to do traffic control and do all those by hand each year, which is what Chad's crew is currently doing. It would free him up. It would be safer for him. It would also free up him and his crew to just work on the long lines, painting curbs yellow, painting the double yellows in the center of the road, painting the bike lane lines, that stuff that he can get done much easier and from the truck, and requires much less kind of ancillary duties like towing cars or doing traffic, coning off streets and having extra people watch the guy who's painting's back and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
And sorry, one more thing about that is that we've made similar requests in the past, or I should say Traffic Services, his division, has made similar requests for added resources to specifically be able to do better things for bike ped infrastructure around town, and this board has written letters of support the past few years for that, and so Bob should be able to send you a kind of model letter for that one.
Awesome. Yeah, I got all those files. So, is that something, I guess I'm asking the board, is that something we want to just draft up and by email, maybe send it out, and I don't know how much we can or can't do of that, and offer any edits? Like, can we blanket approve, yes, we support this, and we'll write a letter of support, and then we can sort of wordsmith by email just to get it in?
I'm not sure on that. I think if it's not substantially changing what you're supporting, I would say yes. If you're approving at the if you're discussing at the meeting, supporting this and writing the letter, and then you're just leaving it up to the actual drafting of the letter. I don't know. I see the wheels turning on Bob, though.
I'm not real sure either. If there was a motion to create and submit a letter of support as discussed at the June 5th meeting for award projects and durable symbols, and that motion was approved, I think we'd be okay for the chair to draft a letter and submit it, I think.
It seems to be on the agenda as an.
It is on the agenda as an
It doesn't have a verb
item.
in it, though. It doesn't say, but I so move.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we got a motion on the table, what Bob said, basically to approve the drafting of a letter of support for the different ward projects and support the, basically the CIP that Ben has submitted. And we've got Britt motioning it, Danny seconding. Any
Curious,
further discussion?
just the specificity of the motion, is this to have somebody on the board draft this letter in support, or is it for Ben to do it?
It would be for the chair to draft the letter and submit it.
Okay.
Yep, so I draft a letter, we'd wordsmith it, send it off. Any other discussion?
Just clarification that there shouldn't really be much in the way of any out-of-public discussion by email or other ways for submittal of changes. I guess there could be the possibility if you would send out a draft and we each individually responded only to you, and you then did the final draft of combining those suggestions as you saw fit.
Okay, thanks for that clarification, Bob. Sound good to everybody? All right, so all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, motion carries. We'll get you that letter as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. All right, any general announcements, kind of quick, because we're getting right to 5. Danny? Okay.
He is drafting a bicycle master plan, and I'm sure there's a website you can provide feedback. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure you can search it.
Thanks, Peter.
There is an online survey that you can complete. If you do MDT projects, public input, you should be able to get to it. I thought that I had sent a link out to
Here
the
we
board
go.
members.
mdt.mt.gov/pubinvolve/pedbike.
And there will be further information on there as to where you can send emailed comments to the project coordinators. There is not a direct page to submit comments on as such. You send emails to the coordinator.
Cool, thanks, Bob. Gene and Bob, anything else?
I'll just do a couple of quick plugs. Lions Club Bike for Sight is this Saturday. Starts at the community center in Lolo. Check-in time is 7 a.m. There is a website registration. Any proceeds go to the Lions Club's efforts to help preserve sight. I'd also give a plug, while it's not directly local to Missoula, it does involve some of Missoula, and some of the Bitterroot Trail passes through Missoula. The Bitterroot Trail website, Bitterroot Trail Preservation Alliance website has just been significantly updated and modified. I'd encourage people to take a look at it. It now includes a map of the trail from Missoula to Hamilton, showing points of interest, parking locations, porta potties, other restroom facilities, designates where those facilities are. So take a look. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody. Our next committee of the whole meeting is Tuesday, June 26th at 6:30 here in the Jack Reedy Conference Room. And then next regular meeting this is a correction from the agenda. It is on Tuesday, July 10th at 3 p.m. So don't show up on Sunday, the 8th. Tuesday, July 10th, and we're skipping that first one because of the 4th, or the first Tuesday because of the 4th. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm going to be out on the 10th as well.
Okay. And I guess if anybody else is going to be out then too, let me know, and if so, make sure we have a quorum. So, all right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.